Part 1. She hated gardening. Claire never liked the garden. When we bought the house, she said it outright. "It's yours. You can grow whatever you want. Just don't ask me to pull weeds." And I didn't. The garden became mine the way her art studio became hers. Quiet, separate spaces where we could each be alone together. She painted. I planted. And for the first 5 years, that balance worked. We were married 12 years. 12 long, mostly quiet years. I used to think that was a good thing. No drama. No screaming matches. No affairs or threats to leave. But it wasn't peace. It was distance disguised as contentment. It started with the hydrangeas. Or rather, the missing ones. I went out one Saturday morning, same as always, to trim back the corner bed, and one of the bushes was gone. Cleanly dug up. Not ripped or withered. Removed. There was a neat square of disturbed earth, still damp. Tools untouched. No note. No explanation. Claire was inside, making coffee. She didn't mention it. Didn't say a word. "Did you move one of the hydrangeas?" I asked casually when I came back in. She looked up from her mug. "No." "Why?" "It's gone. Just gone." She shrugged. "Maybe it died." "No, it was healthy. Someone dug it up." She blinked, unbothered. "Maybe it was kids." "Kids?" We lived in a cul-de-sac where the only thing more consistent than the HOA were the security cameras. I stared at her, waiting for more. But she just sipped her coffee and said, "Don't make it a mystery." But it was a mystery, because when I checked the footage later that night, the cameras showed nothing. Not a raccoon. Not a deer. Not a kid. No one. The next day, I went back to the garden to replant something new in the space. When I started digging, my trowel hit metal. Hard. Hollow. Not a pipe. Not a rock. Something buried. I got on my knees and scraped the dirt away with both hands, heart beating faster with every inch, until I saw it. A small, rusted tin box, the kind people used to store recipes or letters. I pulled it out. It was heavier than it looked. And it wasn't empty. I didn't open it in the garden. I don't know why. Maybe I wanted the privacy of walls. Maybe I already knew, in the part of me I hadn't accessed in years, that whatever was inside wasn't going to be harmless. I went inside, set the box on the kitchen table, wiped the dirt from my hands, and opened it. Inside were 3 things. 1. A black and white photograph of Claire, younger, smiling, holding the hand of a man I'd never seen before. 2. A wedding ring, not mine. 3. A letter, folded once, unmarked, unfamiliar handwriting. I unfolded it, and the first line made my stomach turn cold. "Claire, if you ever read this, I'm sorry for how we left things. I still think about you every time I look at the garden." I read it twice, then again. I looked out the window at the empty patch where the hydrangea used to be, and for the first time in 12 years of marriage, I realized I might not know who I was married to at all. Part 2. A man without a name. I didn't tell her about the box. Not yet. She was upstairs, humming softly while she painted, unaware, or pretending to be. That was always Claire's gift. She could carry silence like a shield, wear it like perfume. And for years I mistook it for calm. But now I wondered what else was buried under that quiet. I took the letter into my study and shut the door behind me. The handwriting was slanted, a little rushed. The ink had bled slightly, like it had been written in a moment that felt urgent. I smoothed the page against my desk and read it again. "Clara, if you ever read this, I'm sorry for how we left things. I still think about you every time I look at the garden. I planted those hydrangeas for you, remember? You said they looked like wedding bouquets waiting to happen. I never forgot that. Never forgot any of it. I know you made your choice. I know he was safer, quieter. But I also know you never told him everything. And that's okay. Some love doesn't fit inside a life like that. If you ever come back here, I hope it's because you remembered, not because you regret it. Yours, always M. M. Just a letter. No name. No date. No return address. But there it was again, that word, garden. The same place Claire swore she never cared about. The same place she told me was mine, like it was meaningless to her. But it wasn't. It had history. And not the kind we shared. The ring in the box was silver. Simple. Worn. The kind of thing someone wears for years without taking it off. It wasn't hers. Claire had never worn a silver ring in the time I'd known her. Always gold. Always thin, minimal, clean, she called it. But this one looked, lived in. Like it had seen a different life entirely. I stared at the photo again. Claire was younger, maybe mid-20s. Her hair was longer. She looked freer, that's what struck me most. She was holding the hand of a man just out of frame. I could only see his arm, part of his jacket. But her smile? That was the kind of smile I hadn't seen in years. That night, I watched her set the table. She moved like everything was fine, like the last 12 years hadn't been edited down versions of a life I never truly understood. I wanted to ask her right then. Who is M? What did you bury in the garden, and why did you pretend it meant nothing to you? Whose ring is this? But I didn't. Because part of me was afraid. Afraid the answers would be too old to be fixable. Afraid they'd change everything I thought I knew about the woman I built my life around. Instead, I said, "Do you remember when we first moved in? You said you hated gardening." She didn't look up from the plates. I did. I still do. I waited. Even hydrangeas? Her hand froze just slightly before reaching for the silverware. Then she smiled, faint, practiced. I think I said they reminded me of weddings. Not that I liked them. She kept setting the table. And I knew right then that she was lying. Part 3. The photo she never framed. Couldn't sleep that night. Claire lay beside me, breathing soft and steady, her back turned. And all I could think about was the box, the photo, the letter signed with nothing but M. She had buried a version of herself in the garden. Quietly, deliberately, and I was just now finding out how much of her had been kept from me. The silence between us used to feel like peace. Now it felt like a locked room I never had the key to. The next morning I left early. Told her I had errands. A quick run to the store. She didn't ask questions. She never did. Instead of the store, I drove to the public records office. I didn't know what I was looking for exactly, but if she lived here before, if there had been another life buried under mine, maybe someone had left a trace. Claire had never mentioned owning another house. Always said this place, our little one-story on Maple Ridge, was her first. But the way the man in the letter talked about planting hydrangeas, the familiarity, the you never told him everything, it didn't read like an old flame from another town. It read like something that happened here. I found something. A listing. Same address 6 years before we moved in. Different owner. Claire Martin. Same name. Same person. But listed not as a buyer, as a co-owner. Next to her name, Marcus Rayner. I felt like the floor dropped out from under me. Claire had lived here before. In this house. With him. And she never told me. We bought this place together, or so I thought. She let me believe we were making a new home. Building a life from scratch. But for her it wasn't new. It was reclaimed. I called the real estate agent who handled our closing. Asked if he remembered the sellers. He did. Claire? Yeah, she said it was her late brother's place. Tragic, really. He passed suddenly. She inherited it and wanted a fresh start. Her brother? I asked, my voice dry. That's what she told us. I hung up. Late brother. Marcus. She'd lied. To everyone. That night I didn't say a word at dinner. Neither did she. We chewed, swallowed, smiled in all the right places. Then she stood and started clearing the dishes. I followed her to the sink. There's something I need to ask you, I said. She paused, plate in her hand. Sure. This house, I said slowly. Did you live here before we bought it? She turned, but not with surprise. Just that same faint smile. Like she'd been waiting for this. Yes. I felt something twist in my chest. You told me this place was new to you. I know. Why lie? She looked at me then. Really looked. Because I didn't want to bring him into our life. Part 4. The name she never spoke. The air between us thickened. I didn't move. She didn't turn away. It was the first time in years I felt like we were standing on completely opposite sides of the same room, not metaphorically, but viscerally. And we were both waiting to see who would flinch first. Him, I said. Marcus? She closed her eyes. Yes. Not your brother. No. Your fiancé? I asked, already knowing the answer. She nodded. Once. I tried to speak. I think I did, but nothing came out. She leaned against the counter like her legs might give out. And for the first time in all the years I'd known her, Claire looked ashamed. Not guilty. Not defensive. Just tired, like she'd been holding her breath for years. "I didn't think you'd find the box," she whispered. "I buried it the week before we moved in." I laughed. Not because it was funny, but because I didn't know what else to do with the ache rising in my throat. "You buried your past under the garden," I said, and then handed me the shovel. She flinched at that. "I didn't know how else to let it go," she said. "This house, it was all I had left of him. Then why bring me here?" She looked up. "Because I thought if I could live a new life in the same space, maybe I could rewrite the old one." I sat down hard. The room tilted slightly. "How did he die?" She swallowed. "He didn't." I looked up fast. "What?" "He left." I blinked. "He's alive." She nodded. "As far as I know." The shock hit harder than anything yet. "But you said—" "I let people think he died," she said quickly. "It was easier than explaining the truth." "And what is the truth, Claire?" She looked away. "That he disappeared. Left one day and never came back. No note. No call. Nothing. The silence between us wasn't peaceful anymore. It was dangerous." "What happened to him?" I asked. "I don't know," she said. "I really don't." I stared. "He just vanished?" She nodded. "I woke up one morning and he was gone. The closet half empty. His side of the bed still warm." I tried to process that. "You never told anyone?" "I was humiliated," she said. "Everyone thought we were perfect, that we were planning a wedding. And suddenly he was just gone." "So you made up a story?" She nodded again, quieter. "It was easier than telling the world I was abandoned." A long pause. Then I asked what I already feared the answer to. "And when we met, did you ever really let go of him?" She hesitated, then said softly, "I wanted to. I tried. But part of me always wondered if he'd come back." That was the crack. Not the betrayal. Not the lie. But the fact that I had been living with a woman who had saved a piece of her heart just in case. I stood up, gripping the edge of the chair. "I need some air." "Please," she whispered. "Don't go." "I'm not leaving," I said. "But I'm not okay." She stepped forward. "Reach for me. Let me explain more." "I think you already did." And I walked out. The night air hit my skin like a slap. And all I could think was the woman I married had buried her past right beneath my feet. And still kept the key. Part 5, the face I almost recognized. I didn't come back inside for hours. I sat on the porch, elbows on my knees, staring at the dark garden, the one I had poured years into, planting life where, apparently, something had died long before I got there. She watched me from the window once. I saw her silhouette. She didn't come out. Didn't call my name. Didn't try to explain again. And I don't know if I was grateful or resentful. Maybe both. The next morning was quiet. Too quiet. No coffee brewing. No music playing from her studio. No scent of paint or lavender detergent drifting down the hall. Her car was gone. No note. No text. Just the hollow stillness of a house that had become a stranger overnight. I should have been angry. Instead, I was numb. Like my emotions had checked out alongside her. I walked to the garden. Stared at the square of dirt where the hydrangea once stood. The place where her secrets had been tucked away with a photo, a letter, and a ring. I had unearthed them. But I still didn't understand what they meant to her. And worse, I wasn't sure she did either. At noon, I got in my car. No destination in mind. Just driving. I needed to move. To escape the house and all the air that still carried her shape. I ended up back at the records office. But this time I asked for something else. Any documentation on Marcus Rayner. And there it was. An address. Not local anymore, a few cities over. A forwarding record from 6 years ago. I wrote it down. I stared at the name. And I realized something strange. I'd seen it before. In Claire's studio. Months ago. A signature in the corner of a painting she never put on the wall. M. Rayner. I remembered asking about it once. She'd said, "Oh, that was from an old teacher. I just liked the brushwork. Lie after lie, stitched cleanly into our home like the seams of a pillow. Beautiful. Hidden. Undisturbed. Until now. I drove. 2 hours. I don't know why. I think I wanted proof. Proof that he existed. Proof that he was real. Proof that this wasn't just a story Claire had spun in grief or guilt or regret. The address led me to a bookstore. Small. Brick. Tucked into a tree-lined street. I parked across from it. And waited. And just when I was about to give up, I saw him. Mid-40s. Same build. Same face, older, softer, but unmistakably the man from the photo in the tin box. He stepped outside to sweep the front step. Alive. Real. Not a ghost. Not a memory. Just living. And the question burned in me like a brand. Why did he leave her? I didn't approach him. Not yet. I sat in the car, heart pounding, knowing that the story Claire told me was still missing pieces. And if I wanted to know the whole truth. Part 6, His Side of the Silence. I sat across from him in that bookstore an hour later. I hadn't planned to go inside. But something about the way he smiled at an older woman browsing through poetry like nothing in his life had ever gone wrong filled me with a quiet, rising rage. I needed to know. So I walked in. Bought a book I didn't need. And as he rang it up, I said, "Do you remember Claire Martin?" His hand froze. His smile didn't fall, not completely, but it changed. Softened into something older. Sadder. "I do," he said. "How do you know her?" "I'm her husband." The pause between us was thick with things neither of us knew how to say. He handed me the receipt. His hands were steady. Mine weren't. "She told me you left," I said. He nodded. "I did." "No explanation?" "No goodbye." He sighed and leaned against the counter, folding his arms. "I wrote her a letter." My heart slammed once. "The one about the garden?" His eyes narrowed just slightly. Then he nodded. "She found it." He looked away for a moment, collecting his thoughts. "I didn't leave because I didn't love her. I left because I couldn't live with what I did." "What did you do?" "I lied to her," he said. "For most of our relationship." He didn't flinch. He didn't try to make himself look better. "I wanted a life with her. But I wasn't ready to be the man she thought I was. I was reckless. Addicted to the attention. I cheated once. Then again. And instead of confessing, I walked away. I said nothing. Because what do you say to the man who broke the woman you love? Who hollowed her out and then disappeared, leaving you to pick up pieces you never even knew were broken? "She deserved better than me," he said. "And so you vanished?" I thought it was mercy. I shook my head. "She mourned you. Lied to people about you. Said you died." His eyes filled with something like regret. "But not guilt?" "I didn't ask her to do that." "No. But you made it easy for her." He nodded, accepting that. "I never reached out because I thought she was better off. When I saw her again, years later, she was with you. Smiling. She looked happy." I clenched my jaw. "You saw her?" "A year after I left. Briefly. I never spoke to her. Just saw her walking in the park. Holding your hand." He looked down. And I let go. I turned to leave. But he said one last thing. "Whatever version of her you know, it's one she had to rebuild from ash. I gave her fire. Maybe you gave her peace. But don't mistake peace for wholeness." I froze at the door. He said quietly, "Sometimes people survive someone like me and never stop looking over their shoulder." I drove home with that line echoing in my skull. Don't mistake peace for wholeness. Claire had chosen quiet. But had she ever truly healed? Or had she just built a safer shell? When I got home, she was there. Sitting on the porch steps, waiting. She stood when she saw me. "Where were you?" she asked. And I didn't answer. Because I wasn't sure how to tell her. I finally knew the part of her story she never had the strength to say out loud. Part 7, the version of her that stayed quiet. She followed me inside. Didn't ask again where I'd been. She must have known. Or guessed. Or maybe she was too tired to pretend anymore. I set my keys on the counter, pulled off my jacket, and turned to face her fully. I saw him. Her eyes didn't widen. She didn't gasp or stumble back. She just nodded. "Marcus," she said softly. I talked to him. She looked down. Her fingers twisted at the hem of her sleeve. The way they used to when she was nervous back before we got married and silence wasn't her default setting. "What did he say?" she asked. "That he left because he couldn't live with himself." She blinked slowly. I figured. I moved closer. "He said he cheated. That he lied to you." She nodded again. "I know. How long did you know?" She hesitated. "I suspected before he left. But I didn't want to believe it." She looked up then. "And when he was gone?" I needed a cleaner story. One that made me feel like I hadn't been stupid. That hit me harder than I expected. Because suddenly I didn't see Claire the liar. I saw Claire the abandoned. The woman who had been left without closure, carrying a grief no one else understood. Not of death, but of being discarded like a story someone forgot to finish. "You built a whole life on top of it," I said. "On top of him?" She nodded. "I had to. Why didn't you tell me?" Her voice cracked. "Because I needed one place in my life where I didn't have to be the woman someone else left behind." We both stood there, raw, unarmed. For the first time since I found the tin box, I realized something quietly devastating. Claire never meant to hurt me with her silence. She just didn't know how to speak without bleeding. "I thought I was over him," she whispered. "And maybe I was. But not over who I was with him. Who I became. You don't have to carry that anymore." But it shaped me, she said. Even if I don't want it to. Even if I chose you. I sat down. She joined me. There were no defenses now. No more hiding. No more pretending this house didn't carry ghosts in the walls. I reached out, held her hand, and asked the only question that mattered now. Do you want to stay? She looked at me. Tired. Honest. I don't want to run anymore. Part 8, the garden we replanted. Spring came late that year. The hydrangeas didn't bloom. And for the first time, that didn't feel like a loss. It felt like a reset. Claire didn't apologize again. She didn't have to. Some truths, once spoken, hang between two people like thread, thin but strong. You can pull on it gently, reweave what was torn. But you can't unhear the knot in someone's voice when they finally tell you the part they never meant to share. We didn't go to therapy. We didn't burn the tin box or the letter. We buried it again. Together this time. Not to forget, but to acknowledge. That grief had lived here before we did. That secrets had roots. That love, to grow, sometimes needs to start over in the same soil. She kept painting. Brighter colors. Bolder strokes. She stopped signing her canvases with anything but her name. I noticed. One night, I caught her barefoot in the garden. Not tending. Not planting. Just standing there. Breathing. I still don't like gardening, she said without turning. I know. She looked at me over her shoulder. But I think I'm ready to learn. We didn't erase the past. We added to it. Hydrangeas still don't grow on the left side of the garden. We planted lavender instead. New roots. New scent. New season. Sometimes in the early morning light, I look at her and remember the woman from the photo. The version of her I never met. The one who smiled like she didn't yet know how love could disappoint. But the version sitting across from me now? She's more complete. Not because she's whole, but because she's honest. This house isn't haunted anymore. It's inhabited. Fully. By two people who chose to stay. Even after they learned what was buried beneath them.